Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to slowly unpack digital annoyance pretty much all of us face and reveal the massive geopolitical crisis hiding right behind it. We're looking at a phenomenon that bridges the gap between everyday smartphone notifications and honestly one of the most complex human rights crises of our time.
You know the ones, right? It usually starts as a wrong number text that suddenly and very smoothly pivots into a friendly conversation about cryptocurrency. Maybe it says something like, "Hi, is this John? We met at the conference." And when you politely correct them, human nature kicks in. You just want to be helpful, so you reply. They strike up a conversation, and at first it seems completely harmless. Maybe a bit annoying or even comical, something you might screenshot and send to a friend for a laugh. But what's waiting on the other side of that screen is actually a terrifying, highly orchestrated criminal machine that preys on our basic human instinct to connect.
And the sheer scale of this operation is absolutely staggering. Between 2020 and 2024, victims globally lost an estimated $75 billion to these specific Southeast Asian cyber scams. Just to put that into perspective for a second, that rivals the entire gross domestic product of several small nations. As the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime notes, these networks are generating up to $40 billion a single year for criminal gangs. So we're not talking about a few rogue hackers in a basement somewhere. This is a massive, industrialized economy operating with ruthless corporate efficiency.
To understand how this micro-level text message connects to a macro-level crisis, we'll quickly walk through the global scam epidemic, take a look inside the cyber compounds, map out Myanmar's geography of crime, talk about the warlords and the junta, uncover the victims trafficked into forced criminality, and finally, look at the global crackdown.
Section 1. The global scam epidemic, from annoyance to a trillion-dollar industry. Let's start by looking at the exact mechanics of how these staggering financial crimes are committed against innocent people around the world.
The absolute crucial point here is understanding a concept known as pig butchering. It is a horrific industry term for a long-con strategy designed to emotionally manipulate you before stealing your money. Unlike, say, a quick credit card theft, this is a slow, methodical, psychological game. It's all about building genuine feeling rapport over weeks or even months. The scammers actively exploit loneliness. They meticulously note details about their victims' lives, their families, and their vulnerabilities. And this intense psychological manipulation is precisely why it's so devastating. The shame and embarrassment victims feel when they finally realize they've been conned often prevents them from reporting the crime, which really masks the true devastating scale of the issue.
The trap is typically set in 4 distinct phases. It begins with a seemingly innocent initial contact, that random text or maybe a match on dating apps like Tinder or OkCupid. Then comes the grooming phase, where trust and sometimes intense romance are actively cultivated over late-night conversations. Next is the pitch. They'll casually mention a highly lucrative crypto trading platform, often directing the victim to incredibly sophisticated fake versions of real apps. And finally, the slaughter. The victim deposits their life savings, the platform completely freezes, the so-called customer service demands a tax fee just to withdraw funds, and eventually the scammer completely vanishes without a trace.
Section 2. Inside the cyber compounds, tech hubs or prisons. Now, to steal billions of dollars globally using this highly intensive, months-long method, you obviously need a massive coordinated workforce and a physical safe haven outside the reach of international law.
And the reality is, these so-called tech parks are actually brutal prisons. From the outside, places with names like KK Park or Shui Koko might look like standard commercial real estate, or perhaps remote casino resorts. But the heavy barbed wire, the high walls, and the constant overwhelming camera surveillance, those aren't designed to keep intruders out. They are entirely designed to keep the workforce trapped inside, completely isolated from the outside world.
The workers sending you these messages are operating under the constant threat of severe physical violence and modern slavery. According to United Nations reports and some truly harrowing testimonies from freed individuals, failing to meet daily financial scamming targets results in horrific punishment. We are literally talking about beatings, torture, electric shocks, and total restriction of movement. The person typing those sweet messages to you on a dating app is often doing so with a metaphorical and sometimes literal gun to their head.
Inside these walls, the environment is a total nightmare of industrial-scale fraud. Individuals are forced to work grueling 12 to 16-hour shifts with almost no breaks. Imagine a massive chaotic boiler room, the constant clatter of keyboards, the blinding glow of hundreds of monitors filled with complex digital trading charts, and armed guards actively patrolling the aisles. Each captive worker is forced to manage dozens of fake personas simultaneously across multiple phones and computers.
It is a fraud factory fueled entirely by forced labor and fear.
Section 3. Myanmar's Geography of Crime, the perfect safe haven. So how exactly did Myanmar become the epicenter of this highly adaptable transnational criminal economy?
Well, this industry didn't just appear overnight. It evolved slowly. It began with loosely regulated border casinos back in the 1990s, which were built to bypass strict gambling laws in neighboring countries. As the 2000s rolled in, the arrival of high-speed internet allowed these operations to shift their focus toward online fraud. But the real major tipping point was 2020. When COVID-19 hit, physical casinos emptied out completely, and the operators pivoted entirely online. Then, in 2021, the military coup in Myanmar shattered what little remained of institutional state control. The resulting civil war created the perfect vacuum where organized crime could operate with total, unchecked impunity.
These criminal enclaves thrive in border towns like Myawaddy and Laokai, sitting right on the very edge of Myanmar, where the rule of law simply doesn't reach. They act as completely independent states. Geographically, sure, they are in Myanmar, but functionally, they operate using the internet infrastructure, the electricity grids, and even the currency of neighboring nations like Thailand and China. They are perfectly positioned in a gray zone, carefully designed to evade any single national jurisdiction. Section 4. Warlords and the Junta, a symbiotic web of crime. To understand why these massive compounds are allowed to exist at all, we have to look at the complex political survival tactics at play in Myanmar's civil war.
There is a grim, deeply symbiotic relationship keeping this whole ecosystem alive. Criminal syndicates, primarily originating from outside the country, run the highly complex daily operations of the scam centers. In turn, local ethnic armed groups provide the physical security, heavily guarding the perimeters and controlling the border territories. And the military junta, the central government itself, turns a blind eye in exchange for a significant cut of the revenue. Research indicates that the lines between warfare, political rule, and organized crime have completely vanished here. Everyone gets a cut, and the billions generated help fund the ongoing conflict.
Now, despite their public crackdowns, digital evidence reveals a totally different story. Analysts tracking ad tech, that's the advertising technology data pinging off smartphones, along with geolocation signals, have noticed a highly disturbing trend. They're tracking regular travel patterns of devices moving directly between known remote scam hubs and government buildings in the capital city, Naypyidaw. By simply following the digital footprint of these cell phones, investigators can clearly see that behind closed doors, there is a deep, structural consultation and a real reliance on the illicit revenue these crimes generate.
Section 5. Trafficked into forced criminality and the shocking victim profile. Transitioning from the geopolitical enablers to the human element, we find a very surprising and incredibly tragic demographic trapped inside these camps.
These syndicates aren't actually looking for unskilled labor. They are aggressively trafficking highly educated, multilingual professionals who think they are accepting legitimate IT and digital marketing jobs across the globe. Unlike traditional human trafficking patterns that often prey on the most economically disadvantaged, this new wave targets young professionals. The syndicates post sophisticated, high-paying job ads on trusted platforms like LinkedIn or Telegram. Victims have been trafficked from neighboring Asian countries, but also from as far away as Kenya, Egypt, and Brazil, creating a truly global hostage crisis right in the middle of the jungle.
It is absolutely heartbreaking to consider that an estimated 120,000 people are currently held captive in Myanmar alone, forced to participate in these scams. Just think about that. That's the population of an entire small city, completely composed of modern slaves, working day and night under the threat of violence to steal from the rest of the world. And that's just in Myanmar. Tens of thousands more are trapped in similar compounds in neighboring countries like Cambodia and Laos.
Section 6. The Global Crackdown. Fighting a transnational hydra. With billions stolen and hundreds of thousands enslaved, the international community is finally attempting to dismantle this vast criminal network. From strict U.S. Treasury sanctions to local governments pulling the plug on critical infrastructure, global powers are trying to squeeze these border towns. The U.S. and U.K. have coordinated economic sanctions, freezing the assets of key syndicate bosses to disrupt their financial networks. China, whose citizens make up a large portion of both the victims and the masterminds, has taken aggressive action, even executing high-level operators and forcing the repatriation of thousands of victims. Meanwhile, neighboring Thailand has literally cut the physical cables supplying electricity and internet to some of these scam cities. But as you can imagine, these crackdowns are incredibly difficult, constantly plagued by jurisdictional nightmares and deep-rooted local corruption. And because the state itself remains broken, these syndicates are highly adaptable. It's like a terrifying game of transnational whack-a-mole that thrives on regional instability. If one town gets raided, the criminal bosses simply pack up their servers, load their captive workforce onto riverboats or trucks, and set up shop in another loosely regulated jurisdiction overnight. There are documented cases where entire compounds have been emptied just hours before a raid, only to resume scamming operations a few miles down the Mekong River just days later.
So I want to leave you with this absolutely crucial thought to take away. The next time your phone buzzes with a wrong number text, will you remember the tragic human cost powering the other side of that conversation? It is not just a digital nuisance. It's a distress signal from a highly educated professional trapped in a fortified compound, forced into criminality by a geopolitical crisis. Understanding this completely changes how we see our digital world. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.